Story 1. Honestly, the best approach is to say that it has been a long day and you are tired, and to ask if you can call it a night. Most people will understand. If they do not, that is on them and you will not feel bad about being less polite. Story 2. My father-in-law says, well, it was nice seeing you, usually 20 minutes after we arrive, even though it is more than a 2-hour drive to his house. Story 3. My grandpa used to say to my grandma, old woman, we should get on up so these nice people can go home. Story 4. I utilize my child. It's getting close to bedtime. People immediately get nervous about disrupting a strict sleep schedule, so they bolt out the door. Story 5. My grandma says, I've seen you, you've seen me. Now go home. She stands by the door. Story 6. Phew, that kitchen is a mess. I proceed to clank around dirty dishes, plates, and glasses in the sink, shooting daggers at the guests until they realize they must either leave or help clean the kitchen. This is how my parents did it my whole life, even before I was born. Laughing out loud. It works, trust me. Story 7. I love you, but I am exhausted, we have an early morning, and so on. Please leave my house. Usually people laugh and head home after a round of hugs. You should say it with sincere love. It works best with people you know well. Story 8. It's already past my bedtime, folks. It's good to see you, but I'll see you another day. Get home safely. It might still take another half hour for everyone to leave, but that gets the point across. Story 9. These days I just say it directly. I spent my whole life being a people pleaser. About 2 years ago I had an epiphany. I can communicate what I want and that is okay. If someone asks me to do something and I do not want to, I say no. Fast why I say I do not want to. No excuse is needed. If I want to leave a situation, I say I am leaving now. Goodbye. Then I go. At large gatherings, other people often appreciate it. Once one person leaves, others feel more confident saying they should get going too. Story 10. My grandfather would take people's coats, hand them back and say, it's been so nice seeing you, we must meet up again soon. He was so polite that people were confused the first time and simply left. Story 11. Thank you for the wonderful evening. I defecated in your sink, and I have already blocked your number. Story 12. If it is a party at my place, I always announce that anyone who is still there in 20 minutes has to help clean up. They all disappear. Story 13. Just start playing closing time on your phone speaker. Story 14. It's funny how half of these replies are from people who did not understand the assignment or read the question. Laughing out loud. Story 15. My dearest, to be an angel and toddle off home now, won't you? It's frightfully late and quite beyond the bounds of civility to linger. Story 16. In Germany, they have a phrase that translates to, I feel visited enough. Story 17. Several times I have gotten up and announced that I'm tired and going to bed. For the record, this is not a ruse. I do actually go to bed. Story 18. If you need to end a gathering, say that it has been great catching up, but you need to call it a night. Be direct about asking people to leave. Story 19. When I was young many years ago, I would say, I'm going to bed. Get the hell out. Story 20. I should really get going before I am too tired to drive. If you have a cat, you can say I need to get home and feed my cat. You could also say that if you leave your cat alone too long, he becomes upset and poops on your bed. Story 21. I love how I'm screenshotting these as if I ever have company. Laughing my ass off. Story 22. Well, I slapped my knee. I reckon it is getting to be about that time. Story 23. It's been nice hanging out, but I'm going to start getting ready for bed. Well, I'm heading out. Story 24. In Australia we say, well, I'll let you go, as though the other person wants to end the conversation. Story 25. Whoa, we've been doing this for X hours? He said nonchalantly. Story 26. I stopped inviting people to my house. If you need to, I'll host a dinner at a restaurant. It's easier to call it a day. Story 27. In the words of Pauly D and Mike, the situation. Do you want me to call you a cab? Or cabs are here. Story 28. In front of his guests, My late uncle stood up and said to my aunt, "Come on, Mary, let's go to bed so these fine people can go home and get some rest. God rest his soul. He was a character." Story 29. In the United Kingdom, traditionally you would slap both thighs while getting up from your seat and say, "Right, I had better let you get on with your day," or "I do not want to keep you," and so on. Story 30. After a few big stretches and a loud yawn, say, "Gosh, I'm getting tired." If they are casual acquaintances, say, "Well, I shan't hold you up any longer." If they are good friends, say, "There's the spare bed or couch. Pillows and blankets are in the cupboard down the hall. Help yourself to the fridge. The cat's name is George. Lock the door behind you if you leave. I'm going to bed now. Later." Story 31. Miss Manners has a method for this when there are two of you. On a previously worked out invisible cue, say, "It was great having you over." The key is that both of you stand up at exactly the same time. Someone did this to me before I knew about it, and it worked perfectly. Story 32. My dad had a simple technique. He went to bed, assuming the party guests would sort things out. Story 33. That chili really hit me hard. You might want to leave before things get messy. Story 34. Well, I slap my knees with both hands. It's getting late. Story 35. In Minnesota, you can take a big sigh, say "Welp," slap your knees, and that does the trick. Story 36. My grandpa used to say to my grandma, "We'd better get to bed, so these people can go home." Story 37. We have smart lights at home. They are usually set to a dim level, but my wife sets them to brighten at a specific time. It works. It is really uncomfortable when you have been in dim lighting and it becomes bright all of a sudden, like when a bar closes. Story 38. My daughter, who lives in Savannah, says the Southern way is to say, "I'm going to have to let you go." Story 39. Slap your knee, stand up, and say, "Welp, I guess we will just have to continue this story next time." I like how most replies assume this interaction is happening in the late evening or at night. What if you had friends over for brunch or lunch? Story 40. I am going to bed. Please turn off the lights and lock the door on your way out. Thank you. Story 41. I have a chronic illness. I tell the few people I know that I need to rest now or soon. If they do not get the hint, I am more direct and say I need to rest and you might need to head off. Story 42. Before kids. You're welcome to crash and keep the party going, but I'm wiped and need to go to bed. After kids. I'm having a great time, but the kids need to go to bed. So let's start wrapping it up. I'm from a culture where guests are sacred, and both of these required a lot of personal growth. Story 43. 2 to 2.5 hours is how long I can host people at my place. That is enough time to eat, watch television or play games, talk and laugh and say our goodbyes. I send invitations with a start time and an end time so guests can plan their drive home. Being polite does not require being subtle. Subtlety can cause friction and undermine the polite intention. Story 44. In the 1960s, my mother was a teenager and her aunt would hand out moon pies. That meant it was time to hit the road. Story 45. I say straight up that I need to get going. That's it. Nothing else is attached and no scenario is involved. Story 46. Well, I slap my palms down on my thighs. It's getting late, and I don't want to keep you. Story 47. I created a go-home playlist featuring greatest hits, and I play it when I'm tired of the company. Songs include Go Now by the Hollies, We've Got to Get Out of This Place by the Animals, Leave Get Out by JoJo, Hit the Road Jack by Ray Charles, Leaving So Soon by Keen, Drive by REM. If nothing else, it amuses me. Story 48. Start vacuuming. They will be gone in 5 minutes, guaranteed. Story 49. If they are my friends, I usually just say, "Okay, party's over. Everyone out." Sometimes, when they first come over, I will say, "Oh man, I can't wait to kick you guys out of my house later." Story 50. In Britain, we slap our lap, awkwardly stand up and say, "Well, I hate to kick you out." If they don't take the hint, It could be weeks before the matter is resolved. Story 51. Well, I have had a lovely time. Let us do this again soon. Story 52. Well, it has been great hanging out, but I have to call it a night. Story 53. Robert Mueller was apparently notorious for turning off the lights in his house, room by room, to herd his guests toward the front door. Story 54. Well, I'm getting tired. I think I'm gonna go to bed soon. Story 55. I turn out the lights and brush my teeth. I am not polite. If I have to tell them to leave, I want the lesson to sink in. Story 56. Thank you for our time together. I need to practice self-care now, and I would like you to go home. Clarity is kindness. Story 57. I have enjoyed our time together, but it is time to part ways. Just say what you mean. A lot of people are very socially ignorant these days, and directness is nice as long as it is delivered pleasantly. Story 58. Turn off the lights, stop any further conversation, and go to bed. Story 59. I stopped to see my dad one time. I lived 3 hours away and he said, well, I took a laxative right before you got here. Have a safe trip home. Story 60. I made a resin sign that says get out in cursive and added light-emitting diodes to it. Story 61. My grandfather told us we should probably beat the traffic, usually on a Sunday afternoon. Story 62. Just firmly place your hands on your knees, stand up, and say, well, it is about that time my partner and I hit the hay. Do it in one motion. Bonus points if you are a woman or single, as it emphasizes that you want them to leave. Story 63. The Midwest goodbye. You slap your knees and say, welp, and stand up. Story 64. My dad has started looking at whoever he rode with and saying, well, don't you need to be going? When he wants to leave. This is my favorite thing. Story 65. I always say, I'm tired. Let's call it a night. But I get so annoyed when they refuse to take the hint. Laughing out loud. Story 66. If you're hosting a party, flicking the lights off and on a few times gets the point across with a little humor. Story 67. Thank you for coming over. It has been lovely having you. We should do this again sometime. Do you have everything you need? Story 68. Tell them you are going to put on something more comfortable. Then come out wearing your pajamas. If that does not work, get out. Story 69. My grandmother always joked, we should go to bed. These people might want to go home. Story 70. Slap both knees when you stand up from the couch, let out a solid whelp, and then all the Midwesterners leave. Story 71. My grandmother, rest in peace, would stand up and announce, I'm going to bed now. If you're going to stay, please clean up and do the dishes. Otherwise, good night. Then she would leave, and that would be the end of the night. It was fantastic. Thankfully, my wife and I loved it and do it now. Story 72. I've got a few things to finish tonight, but I'm glad you came by. Story 73. I am so glad you came, but I am going to have to end it now. Thank you. Story 74. The best one I ever heard is to ask them if they would like another drink, coffee, or tea before they go. Most people will say no and leave. Story 75. Slap your hands on your knees, stand up, and say, well, I think it is time we call it a night. Story 76. You could do it the German and Dutch way. Clap your thighs with both hands and loudly exclaim the word so. Story 77. In my culture, you make guests coffee, and immediately after they drink it, they leave. Story 78. I say all right with rising intonation on the first syllable and falling intonation on the second. It works most of the time, especially when accompanied by an elaborate description of my nightly routine, such as all right, I have to start applying my creams. Story 79. You heave a sigh, say whelp, and slap your thighs as you stand up. Story 80. It can be confusing for foreigners. In the Netherlands, a common way to end a visit is to say that it is almost time for lunch or dinner. In many countries, that statement carries an unspoken invitation to stay for the meal. Among the Dutch, however, it signals that the host is moving on to the next item on the schedule and that the guest is not included. Story 81. My dad hated having people visit, including family. He would tell people to pack up and clean up, for example by taking extra chairs to the basement, carrying packages to their cars, and removing pet water dishes. Story 82. All right, we will let you go. It is getting late. Thank you for coming. Story 83. Well, I had best be getting on with my day, you say as you walk them toward the front door. Story 84. My friend told me to leave because he and his girlfriend were going to have sex. I left the apartment after a few hours of chatting and hanging out. Story 85. I really enjoyed this evening, but I have to call it a night. I have to be up early tomorrow. The right people would be understanding of this. Story 86. If you're in the Midwest, you can slap your legs, say well or whelp, then stand up. My great-grandparent used to say, let these people go home so they can go to bed. Story 87. The hour grows late, and I must retire to my dwelling. So should you. Story 88. So in German my wife might say, mein Mann dankt für den schönen Abend, which means, my husband wants to say thank you for the lovely evening. It works in the other direction too. It is very polite, but everyone knows exactly what it means. First, I am ready to go. Second, my partner is being an idiot and ignoring my signals. As two Americans, our German friends almost always laugh when we use it because it is so typically German. It is very effective, though. Story 89. My grandfather used to slap his knee and say, well, can I get a Coke for the road? My grandmother would say she had plans, put on her coat, and parked her car a few blocks away until she was sure the offending party was gone from the driveway. They were both funny responses and great memories. Story 90. When I was a kid, my dad put on his pajamas when some barbecue guests stayed too long one evening. They took the hint and left. Story 91. Depends. If it's my mates, it could be anything from sorry, boys, I've got an early one. We'll have to call it a night to fuck off, cunts, I'm going to bed in a friendly way. Story 92. My mom says very pleasantly, you can stay as long as you like, but I am going to bed. And she really means it. Laugh out loud. Make yourself a sandwich and read a book. She does not care. Just do not keep her from bedtime. Story 93. He slaps his knee and starts standing up. It's getting pretty late already. Story 94. In English polite society, is there anything else I can get you? Usually does the trick. Story 95. This is a problem only when you are young. Now I say that I am tired, and my friends are too, so everyone is happy to go home. Story 96. A friend's father used to joke, well, we'd better get to bed, since our guests want to leave. Story 97. Well, honey, we should go to bed, so these nice people can go home. Story 98. In my country we say, travelers look their best on the road. And everybody understands that is the cue to leave. Story 99. Definitely not the most polite way, but I do not usually invite people to my house, and the ones who do come over understand. My method is to give a Midwestern knee slap and say, well, time to get out of my house. It works. Story 100. It is getting pretty late now. This subtly indicates that you have been here for a long time. Story 101. My great-grandmother was a nurse in a time when that meant the traditional uniform. A starched white skirt and blouse, the white hat, and white shoes. On Sunday afternoons at my grandparents' house, her go-to line when she was ready to leave was, well, I think I need to go polish my shoes. My grandmother, who was also a nurse then, learned that line as her cue that it was time for us to go. Story 102. Stand and begin clearing the table by bringing dishes and glasses back to the kitchen while making polite conversation. When your guests stand, say thank you so much for coming. It was so good to see you. Story 103. With my family, the acknowledgement of leaving is only the beginning. Getting them out the door is an entirely exhausting process. Story 104. You have to get the tone right, but something like this. It's been great to see you. Thank you so much for coming over. Let me show you the way out. Story 105. My ex-father-in-law would literally stand up and say, welp, it's my bedtime. Keep the noise down and lock the door behind you. It was Christmas Eve about 8 p.m. He went upstairs to bed. We, his sons, their wives, and all the grandkids left. Story 106. I am starting to fade. Let us continue this another time when I am more alert. Story 107. My wife's father used to say to her mother, "Let's go to bed so these nice people can go home." I liked it and we use it now. Story 108. The good old Michigan goodbye. Sitting down, I slap my knees. Well, it's time for me to get going. Story 109. Stand and stretch. Mention that it is early morning and how great this has been. Move toward the door. Ask if they need anything to get home safely or if they would like assistance. Story 110. All of my friends are neurodivergent like me, so they do not get offended when I say, "I hate to kick you out, but I have to go." We then chat for another 30 minutes before they leave. Story 111. You slap your legs, loudly say so, and get up and leave. Story 112. All right, everyone. It's been fun, but I have to get up early tomorrow, so we should call it a night. Let's catch up again soon. I think this is simple and effective. Story 113. Stand up, look at your significant other and say, "Let's go to bed, so these nice people can leave." Story 114. Depending on the context and time of day, I usually start thinking that I need to get up early for work or that I still have obligations to take care of. Story 115. In the Midwest, you lean forward, slap your thigh, and say whelp. Story 116. Last call. There's the door. Kindly fuck off. Thank you. Story 117. I would see my grandma twice a year. She lived on the other side of the country, and we would stop to see her on our way to our vacation home. After 10 minutes, she would say, "My show is about to come on, so." Story 118. Knee slap and rub combination paired with a small exhale to sound like you are stretching. Transition smoothly into pushing on your legs as you stand. 9 times out of 10, your guest will have started a similar process before you begin to stand. Story 119. Slap your knee, stand up, and say, "Well, it's been fun." Then talk with them for another 20 minutes at the door. Story 120. I try to avoid that by giving an end time when I make plans. For example, do you want to come for dinner from 6 to 9 p.m.? I do this because I wish others would do the same. I am constantly worried about overstaying my welcome or offending someone by leaving earlier than expected. Story 121. We had a dog that liked to go to bed at 9 o'clock in the evening. The problem was he expected me to go with him. We had a few people over. At 9 o'clock he came out, looked at everyone, sighed, and left. About 10 minutes later he came back and sighed louder. At 9:30 he returned, threw himself on the floor, and sighed very loudly. One person asked, "What's wrong with Skippy?" I said he wanted to go to bed. They left. I said, "Good dog." Story 122. I tell new guests and longtime guests already know that I have basic hosting rules. 1. If you see it, eat it, drink it, or use it. 2. If you cannot find something, ask. 3. When I am tired, I go to bed. Leave when you want, but please turn off the lights if you are the last to go. If you stay overnight, pick an empty bed or couch and we will have breakfast together the next morning. It has been 30 years since I implemented these rules, and no one has ever overstayed their welcome. I have had some very enjoyable breakfast guests. Story 123. Frankly, what I do is just tell everyone in a jovial mood, "I love you all, but get the fuck out of my apartment." And everyone knows it's not to be mean. It's just that I am not afraid to be blunt. Life's too short to pussyfoot around your friends. Story 124. I only do this with my best friends. I start with a hug and say I love you, but get out of my car. Story 125. I have learned to be polite but direct in these situations. People who do not pick up on subtle hints are usually fine with directness. I had one friend who would stay all night if you let him. I would tell him it is late, I am tired and I am going to bed. It is time to call it a night. Grab your coat and I will walk you to the door. He did not at all consider it rude and would get his coat and leave. Story 126. It was nice seeing you, but I have some things to tend to. Story 127. In the Midwest, we stand up and say, "Well, we'd better get going." Story 128. My granny used to say, "That's all I know," as her signal that she was done with a phone call. It didn't matter if you weren't done. She was calling it. Laughing out loud. Story 129. If you are sitting, slap both knees at the same time, stand up and say it is about that time and that you need to start preparing for lunch, dinner, bed, shower, or anything that signals they should leave because you cannot host them any longer. If you are standing, do the same except instead of slapping your knees, shrug, stretch, and yawn. Story 130. My favorite phrase is I have been visited enough. My friend from Argentina says this. First I did not know how to take it, but now I love it. He is very honest. Story 131. My sister-in-law says, well, if I were a guest, I would be thinking about leaving now. Story 132. Hey, do you want some Taco Bell? Sure. Okay, you can grab some on your way home. Story 133. It has been lovely seeing you. I had better get on with dinner, work, and so on. I am going to have to go. I need to use the restroom. Story 134. I have a friend who does a fake stretch and yawn. His go-to line is, I think I am ready to call it a night. He has used the same move and comment since we were teenagers. Laughing out loud. It works, though. Story 135. The Wisconsin goodbye begins with a subtle signal, like saying whelp and slapping your hands on your thighs, which starts a long process of hugs, extended conversations, and a slow movement toward the door and eventually the driveway. This process can take a significant amount of time before the person departs. Story 136. My wife is German. She speaks directly. I am tired and I want to go to bed. Germans take no offense because none was intended. Americans often take offense because the remark is direct. They tend to speak indirectly. Story 137. I'm a little teapot, short and stout. There is the door. Now get the fuck out. Story 138. Context. Unserious answer. Get back on the corner, woman. Serious answer. Say that you are busy without lying about anything specific. Give the other person the chance to suggest when you will next meet and what to do. That will make them feel more involved and less pushed away. Story 139. You don't have to say anything. Sneak to the broom closet and turn the broom so the bristles face up. They will leave shortly thereafter. It's an old witch's trick. Story 140. My friends have a tradition of saying that you are all very interesting. Now get the fuck out of my house. Story 141. In the Midwest, we slap our hands on our thighs and say whelp. That is the universal indicator that it is time to go. Story 142. My husband has a friend who overstays his welcome every time he visits. He never takes subtle hints. We end up saying that it was nice to catch up, but it is getting late and we are tired. Then he finally heads for the door and we laugh out loud. Story 143. My great-grandfather would bring out his antique alarm clock and wind it while looking at the guests. Story 144. If I am around people I do not know or with whom I have no ties, I stand up, say goodbye, and leave before anyone can convince me otherwise. If they are close friends and I need to go, I tell them I have to take care of something, no questions asked. Story 145. Well, I must get going. Yes, I live here, but I ran out of toilet paper, so I need to get some more. I can feel something moving. Thanks for popping by. Story 146. Okay, this is the last story, and then I really need to go to bed. Story 147. I am known for falling asleep at the dinner table, surrounded by chatting people. Story 148. Wow, where did the time go? No wonder I am yawning. Yawn as loud as you can. Story 149. Break out into song. Closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Story 150. What I would give to have the courage or the nerve to say that without hesitation. Story 151. These answers just make me glad I do not have friends. I am laughing my ass off. Story 152. Aren't you supposed to slap your thighs, say whelp, and then stand up? That's how we do it in Wisconsin. Story 153. I am going home now. Why do you need to cater to other people so much? Story 154. Well, as anyone who knows me will attest, I rarely say anything. I just leave when I have had enough. If I do speak, I usually say yes, I am going now. It is like going to bed. I never tell anyone I am going to bed. I just go. It took my wife a few years to adjust to that. With most people, they just look around and I am gone. Story 155. Never mind. I guess I don't know. Please leave. Story 156. It's been so nice hanging out with you. I should probably start winding down for the night though. Story 157. I hate to ruin a good time, but I need some sleep. I am going to call it a night. Story 158. I set the departure time in advance. I can only stay until 9. I'll wrap up by 10. I'm so excited to see you all. And I also promised myself I would recharge. Once I get home, I'll realize I've been around people all week and need to stare at a wall in silence for a while. Story 159. Midwesterner here. Slap your palms to your thighs while sitting and say, "Welp." There is a 50-50 chance this will immediately trigger moving to the front door, where you will have to endure at least 30 more minutes of saying goodbye before they actually leave. Story 160. In parts of Scotland and the north of England, and probably elsewhere, an old joke used to be that if you visited a usually elderly relative or friend and they said, "Well, you'll have had your tea," that was your cue to leave. The implication was that they were about to eat and they certainly were not going to be hosting you for dinner. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.